A single bite can quiet the fire that has tormented your joints for decades, and the secret behind that miracle lies not in a pill but on the very plate you're about to fill. For anyone who has crossed the 70-year mark, arthritis stops being a distant concern and becomes a daily battle, every step a reminder that the body's once reliable machinery now squeaks and protests. Yet the same aging body, resilient beyond its years, still holds a hidden arsenal of nature's own healers, waiting to be summoned with each forkful. The first clue appears early in the morning, when the sun paints the kitchen gold and the scent of fresh berries mingles with the steam of a soft tea. Those tiny jewels of the forest, blueberries, strawberries, blackberries, carry more than sweetness. Their skins are packed with anthocyanins, the pigments that give them their deep hues, and those compounds act like tiny guards, slipping into inflamed tissue and calming the chemical storms that cause swelling. Scientists have watched, under microscopes, how these molecules dampen the signals that tell the brain pain. When you savor a handful, you're not just tasting fruit, you're delivering a dose of natural fire extinguishers that can lower the intensity of joint ache over weeks. Adding a spoonful of chia or ground flaxseed to the berry blend not only thickens the texture but also introduces lignans, phytoestrogens that have been shown to modulate inflammatory cytokines, offering an extra layer of protection for the cartilage that has begun to wear thin. Midday brings the promise of a hearty garden salad, but the real hero is the leafy green that often goes unnoticed, kale. Its crinkled leaves hide a powerhouse of omega-3 fatty acids, the same kind that fish oil supplements tout. Unlike the oily capsules that sometimes upset the stomach, the plant-based version arrives wrapped in fiber, vitamin K, and antioxidants that work together to reinforce cartilage, the cushion that protects bones. Picture the cartilage as a delicate mattress. Each bite of kale adds a new layer of softness, reducing the friction that makes joints feel like sandpaper. When kale is massaged with a splash of lemon juice, the vitamin C unlocks iron absorption, which in turn supports collagen synthesis, an essential building block for maintaining the integrity of joint tissue. Toss in some roasted chickpeas for protein and a drizzle of tahini for calcium, and the salad becomes a micromeal that attacks inflammation from multiple angles. Then there's the humble turmeric, the golden spice that has traveled from ancient Ayurvedic texts to modern kitchens. Its active component, curcumin, is a notorious opponent of inflammation, binding to the very enzymes that trigger swelling. The trick, however, lies in activation. Pair it with a pinch of black pepper, and the piperine in the pepper opens the door, allowing the curcumin to flood the bloodstream. A simple broth simmered with turmeric, carrots, and a splash of coconut milk becomes not just comfort food but a therapeutic ritual that can shift the pain threshold, making the afternoon climb less daunting. For added potency, include a small amount of ginger, another root rich in gingerol, a compound that synergizes with curcumin to further inhibit NF-kappa B, a protein complex that controls inflammatory gene expression. Serving the broth with a side of fermented kimchi also introduces beneficial probiotics, which have been linked to reduced systemic inflammation through the gut-joint axis. Consider the role of nuts, especially walnuts, which crack open a reservoir of alpha-linolenic acid, a plant-based omega-3 cousin that rivals the marine version in potency. When you crack open a walnut, you release not only a satisfying crunch but also a cascade of anti-inflammatory agents that travel straight to the joints. Over time, these fatty acids remodel the cell membranes, making them less susceptible to the oxidative stress that fuels arthritis flare-ups. A modest handful after lunch can be the difference between a night of restless tossing and a restful, pain-free slumber. Diversify the nut profile with Brazil nuts, which bring selenium, a mineral that supports the activity of glutathione peroxidase, an enzyme that neutralizes harmful free radicals in joint spaces. The combined effect of walnuts and Brazil nuts creates a broader spectrum of micronutrients that jointly temper inflammation and support immune regulation. Olive oil, the liquid gold of Mediterranean shores, deserves its own moment in the spotlight. Cold-pressed, extra virgin varieties hold polyphenol that act like tiny shields, deflecting the rogue molecules that would otherwise ignite the joint lining. Drizzle it over roasted vegetables, and each bite becomes a miniature shielded zone, protecting the joints from the inside out. The richness of the oil also encourages the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins found in other anti-inflammatory foods, creating a synergy that amplifies the overall effect. For an extra boost, stir in a few drops of rosemary or thyme essential oil, food grade, which adds rosmarinic acid, a compound known to inhibit COX-2, an enzyme directly involved in prostaglandin synthesis and pain signaling. When the evening draws near and the body craves warmth, a bowl of lentil soup appears on the table, steam curling like a comforting whisper. Lentils are more than protein, they are brimming with fiber and magnesium, a mineral that calms nerve signals and eases muscle tension. For seniors, magnesium deficiency is a common thread that tightens the pain loop, but a serving of lentils can replenish this essential element, loosening the grip of stiffness. The gentle simmer of the soup also encourages the release of phytonutrients from any added tomatoes, whose lycopene further suppresses inflammatory pathways. Adding a handful of chopped kale or Swiss chard into the simmering pot not only enriches the color but also layers in additional chlorophyll and vitamin A, both of which have been shown to modulate immune responses and reduce oxidative damage in synovial fluid. The final act of the day is often a sweet finish, and here the star is not sugar but the modest avocado. Its creamy flesh is a reservoir of monounsaturated fats, which help lower C-reactive protein, a blood marker that spikes during arthritis flare-ups. The avocado's silky texture also carries vitamin E, a potent antioxidant that protects joint cells from oxidative damage. A slice spread on whole grain toast can turn a simple snack into a decisive strike against chronic pain. Enhance the avocado's power by sprinkling hemp seeds, which supply gamma-linolenic acid, GLA, an omega-6 fatty acid that paradoxically reduces inflammation when balanced with omega-3s. A light drizzle of honey, if blood sugar is well controlled, can add a soothing sweetness without spiking insulin, making the snack both palatable and therapeutic. All these foods share a common thread: they target the underlying inflammation, not just the symptoms. Unlike conventional medicines that block pain signals temporarily, these natural allies work at the cellular level, rebalancing the immune response that has gone haywire with age. The result is not an immediate miracle but a gradual easing, a softening of the edge that has sharpened over the years. Consistency is the secret weapon. A daily pattern of colorful plates builds a cumulative shield that can reduce reliance on analgesics and improve mobility. To keep momentum, consider journaling your meals alongside pain scores. Many seniors find that visualizing progress reinforces adherence and creates a sense of ownership over their healing journey. But the story does not end at the plate. Lifestyle habits intertwine with nutrition, shaping the final outcome. Gentle movement, such as a slow walk on a leafy path or a chair-based yoga session, keeps the joints lubricated, allowing the anti-inflammatory nutrients to penetrate more efficiently. Hydration, often overlooked, carries these nutrients through the bloodstream, delivering them to the sites that need them most. Aim for at least 8 glasses of water a day, flavored with cucumber or a splash of citrus to boost antioxidant intake. Sleep, that restorative sanctuary, gives the body the time to repair cartilage and process the beneficial compounds consumed during the day. Older adults should cultivate a wind-down routine: dim lights, a cup of chamomile tea, and a brief mindfulness practice to encourage deep, reparative REM cycles that have been linked to reduced inflammatory markers. A common misconception is that seniors must sacrifice flavor for health. On the contrary, the foods highlighted bring a palette of taste: sweet berries, earthy greens, spicy turmeric, nutty oil, earthy lentils, buttery avocado that can revive the joy of eating. Each flavor not only pleases the senses but also signals the brain to release dopamine, the feel-good neurotransmitter, creating a positive feedback loop where pleasure and healing reinforce each other. Moreover, the aroma of fresh herbs: basil, mint, cilantro stimulates the olfactory pathways that can modulate pain perception, turning a simple meal into a multisensory therapeutic experience. Imagine a week where breakfast begins with a vibrant berry smoothie fortified with Greek yogurt, a spoonful of collagen peptides, and a pinch of ground cinnamon for its own anti-inflammatory spice profile. Lunch is a kale-laden salad brushed with olive oil, dotted with pomegranate seeds, toasted walnuts, and a drizzle of balsamic reduction. Dinner: a turmeric-infused lentil stew enriched with diced sweet potatoes, spinach, and a splash of miso for umami depth. Snacks rotate between avocado toast, a handful of pistachios, and a small cup of bone broth that supplies gelatin and glycosaminoglycans, building blocks for cartilage. Within a few weeks, the aches that once dictated the pace of the day begin to lose their grip. Joints that felt locked start to glide more smoothly, and the lingering stiffness that turned morning stretches into a chore fades into a gentle waking. It is essential to remember that every body reacts uniquely. Some may feel a noticeable shift after just a few days, while others notice subtle changes over a month. The key is listening to the signals, adjusting portions, and embracing the foods that bring both comfort and relief. If a particular spice feels too intense, dial it back. If a certain nut triggers a mild allergy, substitute with almonds or pistachios, which also harbor anti-inflammatory properties. For those on anticoagulant medication, monitor vitamin K intake, especially from kale and other dark greens, and consult a healthcare provider to ensure safe integration. Incorporating these foods does not demand a complete overhaul of decades-long habits. Small, sustainable swaps yield the greatest long-term rewards. Replace a sugary dessert with a bowl of fresh berries topped with a dollop of ricotta. Swap butter for olive oil when sautéing vegetables. Sprinkle turmeric into soups, stews, or even scrambled eggs. Keep a jar of walnuts within arm's reach for an easy snack. Over time, these incremental choices stack, forming a dietary fortress that stands firm even as the years accumulate. Pair these swaps with a weekly meal prep session, chopping vegetables, roasting root crops, and portioning nuts so that healthy options are always on hand, removing the temptation to fall back on processed convenience foods that often contain hidden trans fats and excessive sodium. The journey after 70 is not defined by limitations but by the wisdom that comes with lived experience. The body, though aging, remains responsive to the signals we send it. By feeding it with nature's anti-inflammatory armory, we hand it the tools to soothe the chronic fire of arthritis. It is a quiet rebellion, choosing nourishment over numbing, progress over stagnation, vitality over resignation. Scientific literature increasingly supports this paradigm. Meta-analyses of randomized trials show that diets rich in polyphenol, omega-3s, and magnesium can lower DAS28 scores, disease activity score, by up to 30% in older adults with rheumatoid arthritis, underscoring that the plate can be as potent as a prescription. So, as the sun sets and you prepare the night's meal, think of each ingredient as a tiny ally marching toward relief. Let the colors on your plate remind you that healing can be as beautiful as it is effective. The next time the joints protest, meet them not with a pop of a pill but with the vibrant, living medicine that grows in gardens, glows in berries, and drifts in golden oil. Your story after 70 can be one of movement, laughter, and the simple pleasure of savoring a meal that does more than fill the stomach. It restores the freedom to live without pain.